cutting through the static to find what matters. This is signal over noise.
When a vault containing high-value assets suddenly swings open to the public, you expect a rush of people looking to secure what's inside. This chart tracks that exact moment in 2025. Model capabilities rose, and licenses became more permissive, yet enterprise adoption of open-weight models dropped from 19% to just 11%. Most companies didn't actually reject these new models after a fair trial. They stayed with their original choices because their existing workflows were already locked in, and they hadn't budgeted for the cost of a total migration. Rigid infrastructure calcifies around an initial deployment, making upgrades nearly impossible, even when the newer models are objectively better and cheaper. In a production environment, an AI model functions less like a purchased asset and more like a lease with an expiration trigger you don't control. Closed APIs, the top tier of our stack, operate on a strict vendor calendar. Anthropic and OpenAI provide as little as 60 days of notice before an endpoint goes dark, forcing an immediate, unscheduled migration. Fine-tuned LoRA adapters represent a sublease. Because they are welded to specific base weights, they break the moment that foundation is updated or retired by the provider. Even self-hosted models have a shelf life. They expire through team attrition, as the engineers who understand the specific batching and quantization parameters move on, leaving behind weights no one knows how to run. Since every model eventually reaches an eviction date, the focus of AI engineering shifts towards building a system that can survive constant turnover. While models and teams cycle out, a task-specific evaluation suite remains relevant. It acts as a durable asset, allowing a team to validate a new model in days rather than months. Designing for this turnover means moving away from the idea that an agent should use one single model for every task. This flowchart of a loan servicing assistant shows how traffic actually moves. 10,000 calls a day hit simple classification and extraction steps. Only 3% of that volume requires high-stakes policy reasoning. Breaking the agent into these independent steps lets you renegotiate 6 small, isolated leases. If the classifier needs to change, the rest of the system remains untouched. Decoupling the architecture in this way ensures that a model retirement notice becomes a routine update instead of a system-wide emergency. You can often avoid a migration entirely by adjusting the model's internal dials. Parameters like adaptive thinking or reasoning effort allow you to lower costs on simpler steps without changing your code. If you are considering self-hosting to cut costs, look past the GPU bill. The real expense is the platform team required to manage incidents and capacity 24/7. This specialization ladder shows the proper order of operations. You start with cheap, reversible moves like prompting and RAG, only moving toward complex options like fine-tuning when the lower rungs fail to meet the bar. Fine-tuning creates a manual subscription renewal. Because the adapter is tied to base weights you don't control, you are forced to retrain and revalidate the entire setup the moment a new base model arrives. Jumping straight to complex, rigid deployments creates expensive architectural debt that is difficult to reverse. Smaller models frequently pass standard reasoning benchmarks while still failing in production. They appear capable in isolation, but struggle with the repetitive nature of agentic workflows. This graph tracks the pass to the 8th metric. While a model like GPT-4o might succeed on the first try, its reliability falls to 25% when it has to perform the exact same task 8 times in a row. These failures happen because agents lose track of state or emit malformed tool calls over a long sequence. They lack the dependability required for multi-turn tasks. Raw intelligence scores are secondary to dependability. Your evaluation suite must specifically test for how well a model recovers from errors and follows formatting schemas. Low bit quantization poses a hidden risk. While it maintains accuracy, it can cause a model to generate significantly more tokens to reach an answer, which can cancel out the expected cost savings of the smaller deployment. Start your Monday by instrumenting your highest volume step for pass to the 8th reliability. Check the reasoning dials on your current model before you commit to a new one. Finally, document every model in your stack in a single-page lease register, noting the specific trigger that will eventually force its replacement. Resilient AI teams succeed by treating their stack as a portfolio of expiring leases and building the infrastructure to survive the turnover.
Cutting through the static.